Let me start by saying the following slides are meant for awareness purposes only and to provide a brief and generalized idea as to what you could expect in your day-to-day activities while working with ESI. With that being said, now let's briefly discuss the EDRM model in reference to the litigation of a case and in conjunction with working with ESI. I want to also mention that now by way of advanced technology, the model has become much more flexible in the sense that one can eliminate stages and tasks that aren't necessarily needed to complete a project, which in turn saves time, cost, and resources. Next slide. As far as the EDRM workflow, in reference to the processes and tasks that vary from preservation through the production stages, the basic workflow perception is the client sends targeted collected data for review, analysis, and production, with the end goal being presenting the information in its most usable form as admissible evidence in court. Now, the steps taken to complete this project are not always clear-cut, but it is a known fact that there are proven technologies that help accomplish the goal. Key things to remember as far as legal professionals are concerned are, number one, in order to perform effectively, you must be aware of what is needed to accomplish the task at hand, and when in doubt, seek out skilled assistance. Number two, know your data as far as incoming file types. What types of files are the clients sending you? Number three, document and implement repeatable processes to increase defensibility and to ensure authenticity. Next slide. Next slide. Preservation and collection and working with physical media. In short, to preserve and collect data also means to maintain and assemble data as needed. Being that this is the case, it is extremely important to implement a set of rules when handling media. There are tons of freeware and shareware applications to assist in data management of a case. However, it is best practice to test and verify all applications before incorporating them into your daily routines. In addition, the actual course of action to take primarily depends on you knowing exactly what you're working with. Some common daily scenarios one might encounter working on the client side of e-discovery, and the common denominator being within all of these scenarios is the client sends data. The first scenario could be, the client sends a hard drive with loose files and folders on it and external media where, the folder structures must be maintained because that's part of the metadata. A second scenario could be the client sends forensic images of a custodian's hard drive. A third scenario could be the client sends archived files. Archive meaning data encryption and decryption tools that range from zip, RAR, PGP, TrueCrypt, and many others. A more common scenario could be client send mail stores as far as Outlook, Exchange, GroupWise, or Lotus Notes files. The key takeaway here is awareness is essential to successful case data management. Next slide. Next slide. Preservation and collection from the cloud. You have two options here. You can do it yourself or you can find a vendor. As far as social media, pages such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, the data content of those web pages require processing because it is possible for you to extract what you see on the web page, but as far as the metadata is concerned, it is embedded in the source. There's a variety of freeware and shareware tools out there, such as TikVid, Firefox, Google Chrome, Internet Explorer. They have built-in plugins designed to extract web page content. Paparazzi for OS X is another one. Downloader, which is a cross-browser desktop application, has the ability to capture almost any internet content. As far as do-it-yourself projects in social media, again, there are tons of free tools. However, it is best practice to thoroughly test and verify all applications before incorporating them into your daily routines, just to ensure the desired results. Being that this is not always a cut and dry project like Office Suite files, it is advised to seek out an experienced vendor. Melissa will elaborate more on this hot topic later, because now there are quite a few vendors that specialize in these types of collections. As far as email cloud collections, you can do these projects yourself, but they require three things. You will need custodian's credentials. You will also need a default client account to download the email to, and you will have to configure the simple mail transfer protocol by way of either OP3 or IMAP. Now, there are also cloud email collection tools out there, and I know two. Nuix, which our assessment tool, has the ability to collect email from the cloud, and also Envelope, which is a night owl collection tool that has this ability. I feel that, you know, having the ability to automate any part of these projects is essentially beneficial, because doing things manually, the probability of something going wrong is just that much greater. Next slide. If you're working with media such as PDA, cell phones, content management systems, magnetic backup tapes, it is strongly advised to seek out an experienced vendor. Or if your organization has a litigation support team, contact them for advice. Most of these formats will have to be converted to another format. And again, there are free apps to assist with the collections from these devices, for example, iPhone, but it is strongly advised to use forensically sound procedures in acquiring electronic evidence from these objects, just to ensure it is maintained as originally discovered. Next slide. Working with vendors in the processing stage. It is a matter of opinion that vendors and legal professionals speak different languages, but the following provides crystal clear topics that should arise in discussions in reference to processing evidence. I mean, I personally believe when having data processing discussions, the legal professionals should keep it purely technical with the vendor and keep it simple stupid with the client. For example, there are quite a few clients that have e-discovery processing tools internal to their organizations, but are not fully aware of the powers those tools hold. In contrast, there are quite a few vendors that still utilize old methodologies and technologies. As far as the processing stage, in short, the primary question here should be, does the chosen provider have the ability to cull the data utilizing various techniques ranging from custodian, date range, file types, email domains, search terms, to remove irrelevant data efficiently and maintain historical records of the processes. In addition to this, I believe that they should be able to provide thorough explanations in reference to exceptions, and exceptions are files that could not be processed for a variety of reasons. I mean, more often than not, these files need to be investigated to determine their defects. Next slide. As far as the review and analysis stages and the discussion topics that should be covered here, for me, key concerns would be, as listed, non-responsive documents. Can they be identified based on the review platform's built-in efficiencies? After the data is processed, the number one question should be, I think, is what's the volume? And then based on the answer to that question, what review tools are available to perform the review either in-house or by the processing vendor or another outside vendor in a secure platform? The next question would be to the case team, and that question is, who will review the data, and will they need to perform redactions, document markups, and or highlights? I mean, as far as the analysis methodology, will the review be linear, which is doc by doc, or nonlinear, which is context-based? Content meaning ideas, topics, people, and discussions. Context meaning the state of actions that form the background within which something exists or takes place. I personally feel nonlinear methodologies are far more efficient. Next slide. Production. The number one question here is, what is the decided delivery format and mechanisms? Quite a few of the archive tools we utilize in the preservation and collection stages are also used here. For example, transferring productions by way of TrueCrypt containers or zip files or RAR files or self-extractable executable files. To save time, cost, and resources, you can be creative and still provide what's needed. For example, providing searchable PDFs where you have the image, but you also have the access to the extract text. Next slide. To wrap it up, I've provided two web pages that I think are very, very useful. One is geared towards forensic tools. A lot of them are free, some are shareware, and the following link is contains a ton of CPLs geared for concordance.